We called it a briefing. Every single week for years. Okay? In fact, people that walked in, if they weren't dressed to the nines, we wouldn't let them come in. That's how, because we had no room. 1,000 people every week. That's what we want to do in Sacramento. I'm going to hit on that a little later. How to do that, how to build a culture, how to have a market meeting that when guests walk in, they're like last night. If you're a guest last night, I think you would have been impressed. Would you guys agree? When you walk in, you're like, Friday night? I mean, I personally was expecting 200, maybe 150. I walk in, I'm like, whoa, it's like a football field long. It's like, this is packed, okay? Imagine having that every single week. We've got to get to that point in Sacramento. We have that every single week and really combine forces. In my opinion, because if we have all these other meetings with 30, 40 people, it's just hard. You know, it's like, which meeting should I go? There's 1,000 of them. I don't know. You know, we got to combine, in my opinion. Does that make sense? Because it's just powerful to have all the talent together in one night. But anyway, I learned that from Jeff. I also learned philosophy. I'm going to just teach you my philosophy. This is what I learned. Is that okay? I learned never miss a meeting. Once a week, never miss. A lot of people in Marion don't get this. It drives me crazy. If I don't have a guest, I don't need to show up. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Let me tell you the 3 reasons why you need. Well, let me tell you the 3 reasons why the market meetings are everything. You ready for this? A lot of you probably never heard this. I got this from Art Williams, who was the #1 network marketer in the history of the world. Okay, other than Jesus Christ. Because he took 12, 1 quit, and 11. 2,000 years later, over 1 billion network, right now alive, okay? So a pretty great leader there, like him or not, or whatever, he's a great leader, period. But the bottom line, Art Williams in Forbes magazine was listed at $2.1 billion. That's his net worth, $2.1 billion. I played under Art Williams Stadium at Liberty University. He donated $90 million of his own money to Liberty University for our football stadium, okay? This is someone in 1970 started. He was a football coach in Georgia, and he talks amazing. He talks that southern accent. Art Williams, man, you got to recruit, and you got to recruit. I mean, I just love listening to him, right? Sounds reminds me of David Byrd, right? So he from 1970 made $10,000 a year. Started A.L. Williams. Took A.L. Williams. Beat every single major insurance company in the world. MetLife, Prudential, everything. And it was little homegrown, family-run company. Boom. Then sold it to Citigroup that turned into Primerica. Okay? #1 networker ever, right? $2.1 billion. He says, the weekly meeting, #1, the reason you go is to resell yourself on the dream. Mm-hmm. That's it. Hopefully a lot of you brand partners last night were resold on your own dream because of Paul and me. Does that make sense? You sit there and say, yeah, that's a great product. I didn't know about those clinicals. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Wow, $280 billion industry. NFL's $255 million. Wow, that's a lot bigger than the NFL. I didn't know that. Because you know why you got to come every week? Because how many of you want to do what we do? Well, you got to learn how to present.
That's right.
Because if you get up here and just look at them, okay, guys, it's boring. Nobody wants to see you, okay? You got to get good. You got to start to get better. So for me, I was shy, but one day I could see myself present, okay? And it took me many years to finally overcome that shyness. Because actually, believe it or not, I was very shy, okay? Very, very shy. I couldn't even talk to my wife when I met her at Starbucks. I just stood up and showed her that I was tall and prayed that she'd come over. It worked. It worked. I bumped into her and she says, hey, do you know any good dessert areas in the area? And I said, and I was so set on get exposing this guy because I was there to do my exposures, and I was like, I don't know, do you? And that guy started hitting on her. I'm like, no, no. I didn't mean for that to happen. But anyway, 5 months later, we're married. So it was crazy. But she kind of gave me a little bit of confidence. You see, my wife, she was an actress and a model. So I was just a little old guy that broke. And I was like, I was shy though, so I had to overcome that. So, Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book, The Outliers. And Outliers is a great book. It talks about, chapter 2, I think, 10,000 hours. And 10,000 hours is what the Beatles did. The Beatles weren't that good in London. They played bars and strip clubs and all this stuff for 10,000 hours. And that's how they became good. It's the same thing as Paul, same thing as me. We've been speaking so much that we started to become good. So when you go to so many meetings, you start to what? Go from the back to the front. And when you go from the back to the front, you start to make more money in the front than in the back. No offense to the people in the back, but it's a lot better view that she has than probably that guy has in the back. Does that make sense? So I went from the back to I'm too cool for school to in the front to salivating, wanting to be the next speaker. Does that make sense? And I got resold on every. I used to have no guests for 5 months. I recruited 0 people my first 5 months in network marketing. I used to have to try to get guests to the meeting and then ask them if I could have a ride. Okay? I had no car, no cell phone for 5, 6 months. Until I met my wife, and she got me a phone because I needed a phone to communicate with her. I used her credit. That's how bad I was at, okay? So I know what it's like to be in the very bottom of the barrel. But I didn't recruit anybody. But I never missed a meeting. I used to ride my bike 15 miles on a highway, and I never missed one meeting, ever. Well, he's like, well, that's crazy. Well, you should see my income now. It's crazy. If you got a car, if you got a cell phone, you should have no excuses. I mean, my gosh. I mean, I had none of that stuff. And I had nobody. And there was no such thing as Facebook back then. So I had to literally go to the mall and get kicked out of every mall I went to try to edit magazines, okay? And I didn't even have the money for the magazines. My friend Amit, who was one of my mentors, now he's frontline to me on Nurium, he's kind of cool. He's the one that mentored me in the other company. He gave me 100 magazines, and I took those 100 magazines and got 40,000 people. Does that make sense? So that's magazines in the back. You don't think they're important? I built my entire industry, my whole thing on those magazines, okay? Absolutely. So I say all that to tell you that I think the most important thing is a marketing meeting. The number 1 reason is resold the dream. Number 2 is for you to resell your team the dream. The 3rd reason is the guests. So if you don't have a guest, you need the meeting. Would you guys agree? Mm-hmm. And by the way, I don't wait for my guests. So I tell them it's at the DoubleTree. Let's just say it's at here. Let's say this coming Tuesday. And yeah, I know it's a little hard to find this place. So of course I'll try to guide them over the phone and stuff. But if there's signs, I'm not sitting there at 7:30, 7:40 texting. Where's my guest? I'm in the meeting front row. Honestly, I could care less if my guest comes. Because I'm already here, I'm engaged, I'm ready to learn. Now, if my guests can't find it, they don't deserve to be on my team. Because they're not smart enough to find the place in the DoubleTree. All they gotta do is ask. If they can't ask, then I don't want them on my team because they're not a visionary, okay? Does that make sense? So, and I'm not trying to be mean, but, you know, hey, look, I treat this like I'm Jerry Jones, and I own the Cowboys. And I'm not going to allow everyone to be on my team. Does that make sense? I'm looking for my veterans, I'm looking for my rookies, I'm looking for free agents, I'm looking for my starting lineup. And in my starting lineup, I'm going to spend 80% of my time on my starters, which is going to give me 80% of results, and then 20% of my time with everyone else. And that's how you should do. Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. So I treat this like a sport, like I own a sports team. So I have posture. If you want to join my team, you know, you better show up looking good and you're on time and stuff like that. But when the guests come, though, the meeting needs you. So if you have guests, are you not more energized? Are you introducing all the guests to the people? Yes. All the leaders and stuff. Yes. Opening up the magazine, sharing stories, and you don't want to give the presentation before the meeting. You know, what's this Nurium thing? Well, you know, let me tell you. You know, let's do a sit down first, and then we go to the meeting. No. Try to get around that. Just try to talk about their life and their kids and their life, and then once they come to the event, they're going to see it for themselves. You don't have to do anything. Does that make sense? Don't talk. Okay, less is more. So, you know, R. Williams taught me that, and one of the things I never did in my philosophy, I never missed a meeting. Number 2, I never missed a regional. Okay, I never missed a regional. Had my daughter 2 days later at the regional. I had a baby a week ago. Well, so what? I had a baby 2 days ago. I'm still at the net.